today marks our second masterclass, and we are proud to be here to host it today with Harrison Assessment, our assessment partner for the event launcher by NIPM Kerala chapter. Before we get started, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all who generously helped us in making this event come together. During the next 1 to 2 months, you will be learning about the different initiatives through our planned masterclasses and other evaluation methods. Hope all this would give you more insights into learning and knowing yourself. So today's topic for discussion is power of assessment to predict performance. So as you know, assessment tools focuses in helping the organization attract, retain, motivate, and develop resources based on the vision and mission of and strategy of any organization. Talent assessments are used to help employers identify candidates that will be a good fit for employment at their company. Many large companies use pre-employment testing to assess whether the personality, work style, knowledge, or skills of candidates fit the job at hand or company culture. Well, I do not want to take much of your time. I need to leave some time for Shalini too. So a warm welcome to you, Shalini. So about Shalini Trivedi, Head Business Development at Harrison Assessment India. She is an experienced talent management consultant who works very closely with industry leaders and senior management to bring about transformational and cultural change through leadership and employee development. She is a certified coach and debriefer of Harrison Assessment. Welcome, Shalini. So over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for such a warm welcome. And good evening, everyone. I again would like to appreciate you all being there such a late evening on a Saturday. And nonetheless, very importantly, to congratulate NIPM for taking this initiative of creating this platform to, acknowledge, appreciate, and also empower our women leaders. So, before actually I get into this, let me also, wish you, I know this launcher was launched on the Women's Day. So let me take this opportunity today because we are meeting for the first time. So to wish you all, a happy Women's Month or a day, whatever that you call. Well, I truly believe that, every day is a Women's Day as long as we know, the power that lies within us. So, all right, let me just share my screen with you without taking much time. Give me a moment, please. All right. I believe you all can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Well, as it has been rightly said that we are going to talk about the power of assessments today. I was also on the Women's Day, I was also reading one of the, quotes there, which had mentioned that we as women, has the power to create, nurture and transform. I was thinking to myself that, somebody we as being women leaders, as being in HR, who best can do this job, because this is what, as our profession also is required, that managing talent, what we are here doing is we are transforming people, we are transforming, we are nurturing them, and we are transforming their lives. We are building, we are helping them build their careers and also transform the organization with people management. So, let me just take you through this presentation of, how an assessment really can help, predict performance of an individual. I don't know how many of you have been, have experienced or have used assessments in the past. And we can talk about that maybe later after my presentation. So this is what I'm going to talk about. And, as the HR leaders, we often see that, what are the organizations that generally, what do they have to deal with? Every organization, their success depends upon their people. It depends upon how they can actually attract, retain, motivate, and develop their own people. And that's and especially in this challenging times, and there is an ongoing need for excellence. Now, how do organizations achieve that? What needs to be done? Well, what needs to be done is assess for success. Organizations are striving to ensure that they hire and retain the top talent. They are able to get the right people in, and they're also able to retain them. They're able to have them engage with them better. It's an important need to also target strengths and also look for gaps for development. Now, it is also very important that the organizations recognize what are the strengths of their employees, and at the same time also give them the opportunity to develop. Drive engagement and retention. That's the buzzword in these times, where how even if you bring in the top talent, it is very important to know whether the employee, or whether the talent is really engaged with the organization or not. So it is very important to drive that engagement and retention within the organization. And of course, identify the talent pool for succession is the key for making the organization successful. Now, how it can be done? Well, we will talk about assessments here. I may also talk about the behavior. Why is it important to assess behavior? Well, behavioral assessments actually help identify the genuine strengths in an individual. And also, along with that, what could be the potential derailers at the same time, where you can actually identify a roadmap for an individual's personal development. You might have heard a lot of assessment tools or assessments, what assessments that needs to be done. But what is important to know is to use the right kind of an assessment. A right kind of assessment is where it actually recognizes that every individual is unique and avoids any common practice of categorizing people into a certain general personality type. Okay, it is important to understand what are the strengths of an individual as a behavior, and what is the behavior which may impact and does help an individual develop that. Now, we talked about that, okay, how an organization can achieve that by conducting assessments, but how human behavior actually determines success. Well, in a conventional way of you all being in HR, I'm sure you must be also involved in the hiring process or in the developing process. How human behavior determines success. When we talk about a conventional way of hiring, we only talk about, in the conventional way, we used to talk about only eligibility factors. The eligibility factors are basically, what is the experience level of an individual, what are the, what is the education level, what kind of qualification, a tick mark on all of that. Those are the factors which are eligibility factors, which you may also call as can-do factors, where the people can perform. They have the eligibility to perform. I have the required qualification to perform. But what is more important, what is also equally important, I would not say more important, because that's 50, that defines or derives 50% of the success of a person. But what we forget to see is whether the person will perform. That's one way of looking at it. One thing that we are looking at is can perform, but will the person perform or not? are the factors which actually are determined by suitability, which are behavioral tendencies, behavioral factors. That whether the person will perform or not is what will be indicated by the behavioral tendencies of an individual. A poor suitability can actually sub-optimize performance. It can be a big derailer. It can really it can make the person, you might have heard of this very commonly used statement, people are hired for skills but fired for suitability, fired for behavior. Yeah, so this is something which is very, very important, and that actually contributes 50% of an individual's suitability to do any kind of a job in given scenario. Now, what is suitability? Suitability is basically when we talk about behavior, it talks about what an individual, whether the individual has the passion to do the job or not, whether the individual has the interest to do the job or not, what are the various interests that the individual is exhibiting, what are the work preferences, whether the person has the required interpersonal skills. Every job today in today's time requires good interpersonal skills. What are the career expectations, behavioral competencies, and how an individual behaves under stress. These are all the factors which are actually a part of the suitability, where you can have the entire understanding of a human behavior. Now, this is about this. Now, how, since I belong to the Harrison organization, I can tell you that how Harrison really measures the suitability factors. Well, Harrison measures the enjoyment or the tendency for factors and behavioral traits that predicts impact performance. Harrison is a tool which in a single assessment measures more than 175 traits, 175 behavioral factors, which includes traits, behavioral preferences, work preferences, interest, and employment expectations, which ideally gives you a holistic view about an individual. It covers, you can see here, without Harrison assessment and with Harrison assessment, gives you a holistic view about an individual from the point of view of what we spoke about as suitability factors. It has its application in the entire employee life cycle, where when we talk about entire employee life cycle, we start from talent acquisition, when the individual joins the organization, or before actually joining the organization, where we are evaluating the right talent to bring in to the organization. It can be used at the level for talent acquisition, for talent development, succession planning, career planning within the organization, engagement for employee engagement, all of it. So it has its application in the entire employee life cycle within the organization, in an individual's career. Now, what is the theoretical background? It is very important to know the theoretical background also of any tool, a scientific tool that you're using, because that is what, is the theory. I mean, that's the base of the tool. And it's a very simple, there are two theories that Harrison tool is based on. One of the first theory is a very simple theory and you would relate to it. It is called enjoyment performance theory. Enjoyment performance theory is a 4-stage cycle. You can see it on my screen. It says enjoy, repeat, improve, feedback. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Ashna, can you please go on mute? Thanks.
Okay. All right. So enjoyment performance theory, you can see this as the 4-stage cycle. And when you look at this, the first stage is enjoy. Now, anything that you enjoy, you like doing, we always have a tendency of repeating that. We want to do it over and over again. we want to repeat it. For example, I maybe take an example of, if my job, let's say, or forget about the job, if I like, let's say, making presentations or like to create PPTs, if I have an enjoyment towards that, I would always look for an opportunity to create something new, to maybe experiment with something and make it more beautiful. So I would keep repeating, and the more I repeat, I will improve that. I will get better and better at it. And the moment I improve, I also start getting noticed by others. People start noticing, and not only people, I also get the internal satisfaction of doing a good job. And combined with positive feedback from others, it leads back to enjoyment. If you see, this is a circle where it ends and it leads back to enjoyment. Now, as a human behavior, we may not look at it as deeply, but if you look at it, if you relate to it, it is very true. And when we look at this in this way, this is a cycle actually that keeps repeating by itself. The things that we enjoy, this is a cycle that keeps repeating by itself, and those are the things that we enjoy become highest of our priorities. Okay, they become highest of our priorities. Now, if you look at it conversely, or if you look at the reverse cycle, that's also true. When we do not enjoy anything that we do not enjoy, same example maybe you can take. If we don't enjoy that, we always try to avoid or procrastinate that. If we are not able to avoid, at least we try to procrastinate. Maybe I'll do it later, or maybe I would rather want somebody else to do that job. And because of the avoidance and procrastination, there is less improvement and learning. Now, because of the less improvement and less betterment, we also may not receive any positive feedback, or we may receive negative feedback. Now, because of that, that is something which further leads back to, again, non-enjoyment. And this is also one cycle that repeats by itself. And before we know it, those are, these are the things that keep repeating. And those are the things that are actually least on our radar. We don't want to do it, or we want to do it, if it is required not to do it, we'll not do it, or we'll do it just to finish off the job. So now, when we talk about development, or human development, or a employee development, or also understanding, when we talk about human behavior in terms of coaching, there is always an alternate entry point. And the alternate entry point is at this stage, a second stage of a positive cycle. I'll go back to the positive cycle. This is where we talk about the positive cycle. Even if I don't enjoy something, with the first stage of reverse cycle, even if I don't enjoy something, I still make an alternate entry point at repetition. Now, when do I make an alternate entry point? Only when I consciously work on it. Only when I know that this is something which is hampering, which is something which is creating or is hindering my success, or is pulling me back to reach to this desired state that I want to be in. That is where I make an alternate entry point, where we call as an adaptive behavior. Where we adapt to change. And when we make an alternate entry point at repetition, we get into a positive cycle by repeating, improving it by repetition, getting positive feedback. And when we get positive feedback, that is where it leads to enjoyment. And that's where we can get into a positive cycle. So this is the enjoyment performance theory that Harrison talks about, and which actually indicates the benefits of understanding the enjoyment performance is it relates to work satisfaction, and job performance is increased. More you require the tasks that you're enjoyed, by an employee. And it also results into engagement. Expectations of an employee and the organizations are met, and retention is also increased by improving the job fit. So it automatically relates to how well that you do in the job. Now, this is also being, if you look at this can also be reflected in one of the reports that Harrison, can give, which is called a traits and definition report. This is a report actually which brings out the entire output of an individual's all, you see 175 behaviors are measured and ranked. They are all ranked in order of an individual's preference. The first section here talks about the life themes of an individual. These are the highest preferences of an individual, which cannot be changed. They are, they define you. And other than the life themes, this report actually brings out what are the strengths of an individual, what are the areas where the person may it impacts them negatively because they do not like that, but that is a requirement of their job. Then what are the factors which are actually their engagement and retention factors? What are the major wants of an individual, which an organization can also look at and see whether the organization can fulfill those wants or not, and if and develop an engagement conversation. This is a report which also bring out some standard competencies of an individual, and more than that, this is also covering the work preferences of an individual. This covers the interest of an individual and the employment expectations. The entire raw data is represented here. You can actually get a holistic view of an individual in this single report, which runs into about 6 to 7 pages. So with a single report, you can see how fit an employee is into for a certain job role. You can also see what are the preferences of an individual, what are their interests, what are their expectations from an employer, what are what are the negative behaviors. This is the report which also brings out what are the behaviors which are negative and which can actually impact the performance of an individual. So this is one report which is actually completely based what you see on the enjoyment performance theory. Now, the second principle that Harrison is based on is actually called the paradox. Now, paradox, it's the dictionary meaning of paradox is two things which look opposite. They are oppositional or they are contradicting. But here, to the context of Harrison, two things which actually look contradictory or paradoxical, but are actually synergistic. Two strong things or two traits, behavioral traits, are not necessarily strengths. They can, they may look very strong, but they can actually become a derailer if they are not complemented by a opposite behavior. Now, when one trait is stronger than its paradoxical trait, we may fail to notice the unintended consequence that it may bring, which is actually a blind spot. Now, I will give you one of the examples that Harrison assessment uses. By the way, before actually going into the example, Harrison, Dr. Dan Harrison, who's actually the founder of Harrison Assessments, created or developed 12 such paradoxes which relate to individuals' work life. And these 12 paradoxes are paradoxical, as we spoke. They have combination traits which are paradoxical in nature. For this technology that Harrison uses, we have won many awards for bringing in the new technology into the assessment industry, which actually brings out that a person it is not necessary the person has to be either this or that. The person can be both. An individual can be both. And that is what creates a genuine strength. Now there are certain paradoxical, what are the different paradoxical, I'm giving you one of the examples of a paradox. Similarly, we have 12 such paradoxes, but we are going to talk about only one paradox today. And this paradox is called opinion paradox. The name of the paradox is called opinion. You can see that on my screen, opinions paradox, which means how you form and hold opinions, including how you deal with ambiguity. Now, we spoke about two opposite traits. These are the opposites. This is represented in a graphical format like this that you see on my screen on the left hand side, which is a combination of two paradoxical traits: certain, being certain, and being open and reflective. Now, as we talk about certain and open and reflective, they seem opposite, right? They seem contradictory, but they are very, very important to actually have a synergy between them. It is very important to go hand in hand. Certain here means the tendency to feel confident in one's own opinion, whereas open and reflective means the tendency to reflect on many different viewpoints. Now, if you look at it, a person who is very certain, the shaded area basically means that the person, it's indicating a score of a person. The person has a score of, a 9 on certain, and even on open and reflective, the person has a score of a 9, which basically means that this person has a tendency to feel confident of his or her own opinions, and at the same time also reflect on many different viewpoints. And thus, the dot that you see on the right hand side is actually the intersection of both the scores. And the shading around that you see is the range of the human behavior, that person's behavior range. Now, the quadrant that it falls into, it is labeled as truth exploring. Now, this is basically the graphical representation that you see here. This particular paradox is divided into 4 quadrants. The top right quadrant is called balanced versatility. Basically means this is the ideal position to be in, where there is synergy between both, where there is a balance between both the paradoxical traits, and the person is a true to form, truth exploring person. He continuously refines understanding. He is certain and open and reflective. The advantages the person has is that the person can explore different viewpoints and also make conclusions because he's confident about his own thoughts. Similarly can also create goals, expectations, and priorities, is also very inclusive, engaging, and assuring, and also clarifies ambiguity, makes better decision. Now, a person who is actually on the top right always have an advantage of dealing with variety of situations, whatever is required. Now, the flip side or the imbalance also we will look at. We have seen that what are the advantages an individual has when there is a balance between the paradoxical traits. When there is an imbalance, we call this an action-oriented trait, which you see on the vertical side, and on the horizontal axis, what you see is the complementing behavior or complementing trait. Now, if an individual has a very high score on the action-oriented trait, which is certain, and less score or a low tendency of being open and reflective, the person is, you see the person is actually falling on the left-hand quadrant, which is labeled as dogmatic. Now, this person who's usually certain is a very good behavior, it's a good trait, it's a good tendency to have. You know, when you look at it independently, the person is confident about his or her own opinions, but at the same time the person does not reflect upon other viewpoints, and that is where it creates an imbalance where the person may be seen or perceived as being dogmatic, where you see that certain, there is confidence, but the person can become dogmatic. I know, not repetitive to different viewpoints, debates when brainstorming is needed. You know, others feel devalued or disrespected, makes premature or poor decisions. You know, so this is what can happen when a person has a preference of only one tendency but not the other. And that is the unintended consequence of also somebody who is strong on certain, but there is an unintended consequence of not being open and reflective. Now, if you look at it this way, in the same paradox, a person who is very high on open and reflective but low on certain puts the person into this quadrant, which is inconclusive. The person would keep reflecting upon other viewpoints. It's a very good trait again, that you reflect on other viewpoints, but if you're not confident, you will keep exploring and you would not be able to come to a conclusion. And that's where there are, people may think that there is the brainstorming, but there's is happening, but there is struggle to conclude, unclear expectations, priorities, goals, unresolved issues, and reduces other people's confidence into you. So this is what the paradox is. Now, this is one example that I have given you. This is one of our flagship. This is one of the analysis which is actually used extensively at the leadership level for leadership hiring as well as leadership development to understand a human behavior, also the blind spots, and also the stress behaviors. Now, I will also touch upon another aspect into this report. If you see this paradox, whenever there is an imbalance, for example, if you look at it in this particular scenario, whenever there is an imbalance, a person is very high on certain, low on open and reflective, you normally see the person is dogmatic. But what if the person is under stress? And it is natural to get under stress in such a situation when there is an imbalance. You may receive feedback. You receive feedback from people that you are imposing your thoughts and your opinion on others, or there is a situation where you need to collaborate with others to take decisions, and there are different viewpoints and you struggle to do that. What may happen in that situation are, psychologists have known for years that our emotions take charge of our behavior when we are under stress. Whenever we are under stress, our emotions take charge. Rather than we managing our behavior, our emotions start managing. Our emotions, when our emotions start managing, we behave the opposite of what we normally do. For example, if somebody who is highly dogmatic or seen as being dogmatic, very certain, very confident about his own opinions, can actually behave under stress the opposite of what he or she normally does. The person can actually become absolutely inconclusive. But that does not mean that the person becomes open and reflective. It means that this person will behave the opposite, which is also not the ideal position to be in. The person will get under stress and will withdraw. It's a withdrawal state. where you don't want to talk about your opinions, but you still don't open and reflect on other viewpoints, and you become inconclusive. So both the situations are not an ideal situation to be in. So the more you create a balance between the paradoxical traits, the more truth exploring, or the more the better it is, where you have, at least in the area of opinion, for example, is one of the topics or the paradox we are talking about. The person will know how to deal with variety of situations and can opinionate better. So this is what about one of the paradoxes. Harrison has 12 such paradoxes, which actually gives it's like an X-ray where you can look at that, and you can look at the leadership skills and achievement and interpersonal skills of any individual. Now, there are different solutions that Harrison has, as we were talking, that it applies in the entire employee life cycle. It starts from talent acquisition to talent development, succession planning. So this is one of the analysis that Harrison can give, which is for specifically for talent acquisition, where this is also one of the unique features of Harrison, where Harrison has developed more than 6,500 job success formulas. Harrison has a formula for each job role prevalent in any industry. So it covers each and every job role, and it brings out the fit of a person to the certain job role. So it is highly predictive of a success of a person in that certain job role. It has 3 sections. It has essential traits, the traits which are very important for the person to perform in the job. Then it has desirable traits, which are good to have, like these. These are the desirable traits which are good to have. They are value adds, they are threshold traits. And then it has the traits to avoid, which are negative traits, which can actually impact negatively the job performance if seen in an individual. Now, there is an example here also. Trait to avoid is, this is one of the negative behaviors, blindly optimistic. Here we look at a high score to be actually an alarming thing. Here, ideal score is 0 because that's a trait to avoid. Negative trait, ideal score is 0. When you see a high score, that actually also shows you the impact of a person negatively. So this person is indicating that the person has between moderate to substantial in negative impact on the job because of the presence of this behavior. Now, similarly in desirable traits, you see a yellow shading indicates moderate negative impact. However, the green shading indicates positive impact. Here you see a negative as well as the positive impact. So this is a report which actually tells you what are the factors which are important for the job, for the person to exhibit in relation to the job. And if the person is exhibiting that behavior, it will be indicated by green, which indicates the person has a positive impact on the job because of its presence and high presence. And if you see a yellow, that indicates a moderate negative impact. It is not exhibited to the level it is important. And if it is a red, it indicates strong negative impact. Because of its presence, it can actually impact the performance. So this is the report which specifically is used for recruitment, where it can bring out the suitability, what we spoke about in the beginning, of an individual. And it also this particular report also comes with a suitability interview guide, which actually brings out the interview questions for the interviewer to actually talk about, or to probe further or to validate what is seen in the report. Now here the development solution, the traits and definition report that I showed to you is one of the development solutions, which actually is a where you look at all the factors, their interest, employment expectations. There is a development report which brings out automatically the two areas of development, and it also gives a step-by-step plan how an individual can work on that particular area. For example, if the development area is self-improvement, there is a step-by-step plan to indicative step-by-step plan to actually work on that area. So it's a self-development plan that Harrison can give based on that single assessment. Paradox is also one of those. So you can see this is how the paradox looks like. And these are the bigger hurricane kind of a symbol are the stress behaviors. And this is what you see is the natural behavior or the normal behavior of an individual. We also can actually give a team paradox. You can also see how, how an individual vis-a-vis how a team is mapped to a paradox, where you see, where majorly do you see the entire team being seen in these four quadrants. If you see in these four quadrants, you see this particular team is mostly inconclusive quadrant. So they are the kind of people who are more open and reflective, but less certain. And that is the reason it is showing most of the people in this particular quadrant. So you can also run, we also run team paradoxes or team, leadership paradoxes, which actually gives a lot of insight how a team shows up, and what are the need for development as a team also, or what are the strengths as a team, what are the things which are as a team, what are their genuine strengths, and what are the areas which is actually pulling down the team performance as well. Then there are engagement solutions. We talked about how an individual, how important it is in today's time to keep our employees, our talent, especially our top talent, engaged, because we invest so much into people management. It is very important to understand what engages our people, what is it that that each individual wants, and how there can be a mutual fulfillment between an organization and an individual. So this is what has been brought out, where Harrison focuses on 8 categories of engagement. These 8 categories include development expectations, appreciation expectations, remuneration expectations, communication, authority, personal, social, and work-life expectations, work-life balance expectations. These are the 8 categories of expectations that each individual has. I also have, you must also be having, but to a different level. For me, it may be an appreciation expectation, which may be very high, but for somebody else, it may be development expectations, or it may be a work-life expectation, balance expectation. And that is where we understand what our employees need, what and why these expectations are there. If these expectations are there, that means either they have not been met in the past, or it is one of their dire needs. And this is something also which is important to keep our employees retained in the organization, because if my highest expectation is not being met by the organization, it is unlikely that I stay engaged with the organization. So, well, there are, these are, and we also have team engagement reports, which is also one of the very important factors. We work with a lot of organizations where they map people and understand. We also do it at the organization level, where we understand as an organization how engaged their people are, or how maybe at a team level, what are the expectations of the team. And there are organizations who actually can also work on basing their policies on these findings, because it gives you a lot of insights. If, let's say, for example, we had seen in one of the studies that we did with one of the organizations, where they had high expectation on work life balance. They were slogging themselves. They had no flexibility in the organization, and that is the reason the employees were unhappy. There might be scenarios where you see that there is no flexibility which can be given. Maybe the business is such that there is no flexibility which can be given. That's the business demand. But this is something which you actually can also look at at the time, with our other report that I showed you, with the traits and definition, which brings out the engagement factors, where if you see that there is a very high expectation of an employee on a certain aspect which an organization cannot provide, it is better to have a conversation before, rather than getting the right person in, or getting a wrong person in. So these are certain things which can actually impact our the culture of the organization, where we talk about competencies. It can impact the organizations overall. I mean, when we talk about the the expectations, the more you grow in the organization, behavior, our suitability becomes more important than our eligibility. You would agree to that the more we grow in the organization, our people skills, our other how we manage people, how we enforce upon things, how we drive things, how we motivate others, these are the things which are more important than actual skills. So it is definitely something which is it is something very important for us to recognize and create a win-win situation for each one of us. Well, I'm not, because of the want of the time, I think it is better that if you have any questions, you may, and before actually you have any questions, I would like to also make an offering. Since it is it's been done for a good purpose. I offered to NIPM that we would like to offer a complimentary assessment to all of you who are present today. And we would also like to give you the traits and definition report, what we spoke about, which actually gives the output of every aspect of your, starting from your preferences to your interests, your environmental preferences, your expectations, negative behaviors, everything will be will be brought out under this category. So I would love to offer you this, and over to all of you. If you have any questions, anything that you would like to ask me.
Hi Shalini, thank you. This is Raji here.
Yeah, sure. Yes, tell me.
First of all, it was too much for us to grasp at this particular time, because we were a startup and I never knew we had so much in store as an assessment is based on. So my question is, in our current situation, how many times should we do an assessment as such? Because this paradox is imbalance of emotion, not paradox, sorry. Imbalance of emotion comes a lot of times. In babies, when somebody is right now working from home, because we have a hybrid model, and rather than they're working from office. So if you can just share a little bit of light and how could we use it, then it would be great. Thank you.
Sure. Uh, well, when we do an assessment to understand our innate behavior, well, that assessment is not required to be done again and again. It is actually, this is something which brings out what we normally, what we prefer as people. It the circumstantial changes has a very little impact unless there is a life changing event that has happened or has occurred. Okay, a life changing event, I hope you understand what do I mean by a life changing event. There is, unless there is a life changing event, there is no impact on our preferences and our behavior unless we consciously work on it. Okay, so when we when we take an assessment, it brings out our true self. It does not get impacted by small little things, or maybe there is some kind of a stress that is there at that point of time. It is actually valid for good 18 months. In case if you take the assessment today, it is valid for 18 months. You can actually refer to your report unless you are consciously working on anything, which we normally don't do unless we know. Because a lot of times you will also see, you once you get the report, you would be able to resonate with that, but you would still, you will find out that you had never thought about it, that these are maybe your strengths, or these are the areas which is probably impacting you. So it is, and then that is where we create that awareness, and then we accept. So it's a development is also a 3-stage cycle, where we first of all need to be aware about our own behavior, and once we are aware, we need to also accept. Okay, if somebody tells me blunt, I would slap that person. So if somebody, so it is very important to also understand, first of all, be aware, and then accept. And once we accept, only then we adapt. Then we adapt to change. Then only we can make our journey, our way to the development towards that uh, desired state. So it does not change, if Raji, if if it answers your question.
Okay. Probably we just saw a little bit of imbalance within our organization the moment it is they were asked to come to office suddenly. So that's the reason why I was just checking. But yes, I understand on that. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Shalini, if you can
I
just
have one
give a
question.
heads up on the reliability score as well, maybe that will add up to.
Oh yeah, it was actually there on my presentation, but I thought maybe the want of time. Okay, so maybe I will not share the presentation. I will talk about it only. Well, when we talk about the assessment, so Harrison is a well-known tool. It was developed in 1990 with a lot of research which has gone into it. And with this lot of research that has gone into it, there is there is an inbuilt authentication method which is there in the tool. When somebody takes the assessment, it takes about 25 to 30 minutes to complete the assessment. And once somebody takes the assessment, there's a consistency mechanism in the tool, which actually brings out how consistently a person has taken the assessment. Now, if there is any inconsistency seen, that is brought out. And actually, when there is a low consistency, anything which is below 80%, it actually, the system blocks the reports. The system blocks the reports because we cannot rely on the data. It gives us notification, gives us, it prompts us that the person may not be either. There could be many reasons, couple of reasons actually. Primarily, there are two reasons why there is an inconsistency. One, when we take an assessment, we have a lot of we always we have a baggage. We feel that, okay, maybe what is it done for, we whether it will be taken against me. So because of that, with so much of career experiences, we have that baggage, and because of that, we do not truly represent ourselves. And when we do not truly represent ourselves, that system catches that, and it indicates that you have been inconsistent in answering. And other reasons can be also because somebody who's been asked to take the assessment but just taking it just for the that he has to do it for the however the person is required to do. So maybe somebody has taken it randomly or in a jiffy. That could also be a reason of inconsistency. So we give a second chance whenever somebody is inconsistent. That benefit of doubt is there, and we give a second chance. The person can take the assessment, but unless the person is 80% consistent, has a score of reliability which is at least 80%, we do not generate a report, which ensures that when we see data, when we see the reports, we can rely on that. That is the whole purpose.
Hi Shalini, good evening. Supriya here.
Hi Supriya.
Thank you for an interesting session first. Second, I have a question. Do your reports give us such a detailed explanation? Like in the paradoxical part that you were explaining, you explained to us in so much detail that we could accurately understand what the report means. So does the same kind of explanation come along with the report, or do we have to do a certification? At least one person from the organization has to do a certification to understand and read reports like the other psychometric tests.
Valid question, Supriya. You are absolutely right. See, when we use a tool for development, I took an example of only one paradox. Now, it has a lot of elements to it. To bring out the right inference out of a report, it is important to get certified in the tool. We give the tool with orientation only for recruitment. When you're using it for recruitment, because I showed you one report which is seen with the lens of a job success analysis, where you see the essential, desirable, and traits to avoid, which is used for recruitment. That can be used by an organization. So recruitment tool can be used by an organization with simple orientation to understand, and then they can understand, self and interpret. The HR is given an orientation, but when you're using it for development, especially the paradox that I took you through, it is important to get certified.
Okay, so if you don't mind, can you tell us what is the procedure and the commercials associated with that?
I can surely share that. I think maybe those are, if it's your personal interest, what we can probably do is we can connect. I can share the information on the certification with everybody, or if if some specific people are interested, maybe I can share it with Jerry, and Jerry in turn can share the details with you. There are two levels of certification that Harrison offers. So there is a detailing. I think we can talk about that offline.
Okay, no problem. And Shalini, so the traits report that you would give us when we take an assessment that you just spoke about, will that have a detailing?
Okay, so the reports itself also has an understanding pages. If you see the report, I showed you only a snapshot of the report. Before the report starts, there are 2 pages which you will see, which comes along with the understanding pages, how you can self-interpret. That is this particular report that we are going to give you. 80%, 90% of it you can actually, so I think you can, all of you, since being from the HR background, and when you read those understanding pages, you can understand the complete report. However, after the report, after you get the report, and after still you have some doubts, you can actually reach out to Jerry, because he's also a certified Harrison coach. So he's a certified coach and debriefer of Harrison. So you can actually reach out to Jerry and he can help you out. Otherwise, Jerry, or NIPM team can share my email ID with you, and all of you can actually reach out to me also directly, where we can you know uh, go into the detail of your own reports as well. But 90% or 100% of the times, actually, you would be able to understand that report, self-interpret, once you read those understanding pages also. That is the reason we are giving you that report, and it has an output of everything. So it's a complete maximum of your traits are covered there.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
This is Jismi Jose here from Cancor Ingredients. We are already using Harrison Assessments, and I think it's a very good tool. I had one question. It was actually with regards to a situation that we had. We had a new joinee, and we had done the Harrison Assessments, and we know quite a new about the new joinee. But after 8 months of his joining, he actually married. But I am in the sense I'm seeing some situation, where he has placed himself where it is not at all matching with the report that we had generated for him. So do you think that this is the kind of a live event because of which that we should be doing maybe one more assessment for him?
Well, if you are seeing some, visible changes in the person after that you have hired, and now, and there is, of course, it's a big event whatsoever, maybe not a life-changing that we may call it, but it could have been a life-changing for him. You don't know what is going on in his life. So, but there is still an event that took place in his life, and if you see that visible change, then it is advisable that you can actually have the person take the assessment again, or have a conversation to understand that what may have what is it that is impacting. Because have you seen the person's performance going down?
Thank you so much.
Have you seen the person's performance going down?
Yes, we have seen the performance going down, and the different, like for example, the person was focusing a lot on the development objectives and all of that. But after some time, we see a change where he's shifting more towards, the appreciation and personal part of it.
Okay. So there might be some personal needs and expectations, or he's not able to manage. I think you may do the assessment also, because there has been a change, but at the same time, maybe having a conversation itself may help.
Hi, ma'am. Aisha here. I have two questions. So both are behavior oriented of people. So one is, what is the probability of behavioral shift even after a developmental program? That is one. And number two is going back to the enjoyable performance curve. So in the second one, you were mentioning about you don't want to do, and then you try to avoid it. So is there a point wherein you try to understand why that person does not want to do that particular thing, and then you go back to the excitement part of the curve?
Exactly. See, this, and then when we spoke about this, there are two things. When we use a tool for recruitment, when we are using a tool for recruitment, what you can do is only you can probe further to understand whether that is, that gets validated by what is seen in the report or not. But when you're using it for development, you also, for your development, when you're using, you can't go, since you're trying to develop that person, you are consciously determining what needs to be worked upon. That is where you look at those factors, and there is a coaching that takes place, followed by a report, where you see, first of all, there is a debriefing that needs to be done to the individual. As I said in the initial stage, there has to be an acceptance. The person need to be aware. Once the person is aware, there has to be an acceptance. And if there is an acceptance, then only the person will start working on that. And then when the person is working on some, you know, a certain behavior, there is a possibility of, you spoke about what is the possibility of a behavioral shift. Behaviors are not skills. It cannot be developed overnight. There has to be a conscious effort, and there has to be a constant and conscious effort. And also, the surroundings also need to support that. Yeah. Let's say today, if I'm not good at taking initiatives and I am aware, I am starting to work on that. I determine that I um, I acknowledge that I need to work upon taking initiatives, and I start my progress. I progress towards taking initiatives. But unless and until my environment also allows me, if there is if I don't there is no buy-in or a sign off on this from my manager, this will fail. So it the development journey gets impacted by a lot of other factors other than what you see in the report. There are when somebody is wanting to work upon it, of course, as I said, that there is definitely a behavioral shift is visible. It's possible, and that is the reason we do so much of work in the development space. But it's not an easy process. It's a process to understand, accept. First of all, there has to be an acceptability and the conscious effort from the individual, and then there has to be a surroundings that needs to be provided to an individual to actually work upon that.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
All right, so anybody else, anything?
Any more questions? Probably we are stretching it a bit.
Or if you have questions even later, as I said, that I would be happy to share my email ID. Jerry can share my email ID with all of you. You can actually connect with me if you want to, get some more details about how this works, how some like Supriya had wanted to understand about the certification program. So you can actually reach out to me directly as well.
Any more questions from anyone, or shall we kind of wrap up? So I presume there are no more questions. So taking over from Prasita. Folks, my trust with Harrison happened, or assessments happened during the last year during lockdown, when I started rereading the competency assessment book by Seema Sanghi, which most of you might have seen through our MBA days. Immediately some sort of romance happened with competency again, and then we were scouting for different competency assessment providers, and that's when we kind of interacted from an organizational level with Harrison as well, among 6 other competency assessment providers. So Shalini and me spoke almost sometime during August last year, and apparently we have moved a long way forward from there. But I would tell you, initially when I heard about Harrison's and again a whole lot of theory, I said, okay, this is going to be too complex. But then maybe, thanks to Shalini and her team there, who has gone the extra mile to traverse and making us understand the benefits of Harrison's, and we have finally started to use Harrison assessments here. So as Shalini has mentioned, there should be some champions within the organizations. So from the organization, a couple of us have been selected for certification. So as she said, probably if there are any more queries, maybe you can direct it to me so that I can, if I can answer it, I can answer it for you, or else I can pass it on to Shalini so that you are being in touch. So, yeah, Shalini, you wanted to say something?
I like that about the links, the certificate. I mean, the assessment links. So, Jerry, I mean, from your side, maybe I can. What I can probably do is, if you can, whosoever is interested, we can actually send out the assessment links directly to them. You can, all of you, you can share, or Jenny has the email IDs of all of you. So if you can share those with us, by Monday, we can send you the assessment links. Assessment links does not have any expiry. So whenever you click on that, it would take 30 minutes. So, if you have uninterrupted 30 minutes with you, then go ahead and take that assessment. Once you complete that, we will generate your reports and send it to you directly. All right, Jerry. So, anything else that you would like to say?
No, Shalini. So as suggested, we have the email IDs of everyone. So I'm collate it and send it across to you so that you can send across the complimentary assessment links which come to all launcher participants as a free gift from Harrison and NIPM Kerala chapter. So we are so thankful to Harrison Assessments for having partnered with us as the assessment partner for Launcher 2021, and for giving us this takeaway of giving a complimentary assessment to all our participants and some of our team members as well. So thank you so much, Shalini, for sparing some time. So team, Shalini is a sought after coach, business coach and consultant with Harrison's India. So we have even caught up discussing about her daily schedule. So she runs from one coaching session to some other business meeting. So it's so it means a lot when Shalini actually spares a weekend for us to give us such a debriefing for almost an hour and a half. So thank you so much, Shalini. On behalf of NIPM Kerala chapter and Launcher 2021 team, we offer all the gratitude for sparing your family time and enlightening us with the Harrison assessment, and also bringing joys to the minds of the faces of our participants here when they heard that they'll be getting a free assessment on their behavioral competencies as well. So thanks a bunch. Thanks so much. I sincerely hope some of the participants may probably start associating with you in the long run as well, on an individual note or from an organizational point of view as well. So thanks so much. Thanks so much.
Been a real pleasure of being here, and especially I was really happy to see that it is. When Jerry told me about it is only for the women leaders, I was really excited about it. So yeah, I think that has been a good. I wish you all the best. I wish you all of you as well as NIPM all the best through this journey. So good luck with your future. All right.
Okay. So all of you have a great night.
Have a good evening, Saturday evening. Go enjoy now.
Thank you so much. Thanks for participating, all Launcher participants. Thanks to the NIPM senior team members, Launcher team, and thanks again, Shalini. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Shalini and Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.